You cannot enslave a nation with chains anymore, so now you do it with debt. But not here, not in Burkina Faso, not anymore. We are done obeying economic colonizers.
The International Monetary Fund has long been painted as a lifeline for struggling African economies. But behind the language of assistance and structural adjustment lies a system that has silently controlled governments, crippled growth, and pushed millions into generational poverty. On a quiet morning in 2024, one man stood up and said no. Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso didn't just reject an IMF loan, he declared war on the institution's grip over Africa. This is the shocking, true story of the day Traoré defied global financial power, shook the foundations of economic colonialism, and began a revolution that's now echoing across the continent. Burkina Faso had always been poor, or so the world believed, landlocked, underdeveloped, and burdened by insecurity. The country had been on and off IMF programs for over 3 decades. Each time a government collapsed or a crisis hit, the IMF arrived.
There are many things we can do, but I think all of this is the result of colonization.
But
our minds have been somewhat blocked and we've been told to consume. But no, we need to create, and you need to believe in yourselves.
The result was predictable
D'accord, merci beaucoup camarades et bonjour à tous. C'est un réel plaisir d'être là ce matin avec vous, pour communier avec vous et aussi échanger sur certains sujets, je dirais.
Inflation had spiked, food prices were rising, and the country owed over $1.5 billion in external debt, most of it through institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. But Traoré was different. He didn't come from elite universities or international finance. He came from the army, from the ground, from the pain of watching his people suffer while foreign experts dictated policy from air-conditioned rooms. He had seen enough. In early 2024, a delegation from the IMF landed in Ouagadougou. Their goal was to negotiate a new financial support package worth over $600 million, spread across infrastructure, debt refinancing, and currency stabilization. On paper, it sounded like salvation, but behind closed doors, the terms were brutal. The IMF demanded that Burkina Faso cut fuel subsidies, reduce military spending, introduce new taxes on small-scale farmers, and halt its
There are many things we can do, but I think all of this is the result of colonization.
They also wanted full transparency.
Our minds have been somewhat blocked and we've been told to consume. But no, we need to create, and you need to believe in yourselves.
In a private meeting, he reported
D'accord, merci beaucoup camarades et bonjour à tous. C'est un réel plaisir d'être là ce matin avec vous, pour communier avec vous et aussi échanger sur certains sujets, je dirais.
What followed was unprecedented. Traoré called a national press conference. He stood on the steps of the presidential palace, holding a document labeled IMF proposal. In front of cameras, he tore it in half. The world watched in disbelief. And then he spoke. For too long, we have mistaken control for cooperation. The IMF has not built Burkina Faso. It has drained it. From today forward, we will no longer accept any policy that sacrifices our people for financial rankings. Burkina Faso is not for sale. The speech went viral across Africa. Some called it madness. Others called it the beginning of a new economic liberation. Traoré's critics were quick to react. Western media labeled him a populist. Financial analysts predicted hyperinflation and economic collapse. International ratings agencies downgraded Burkina Faso's credit status. Investors began pulling out, but Traoré was prepared. Quietly, in the months leading up to this declaration, his team had been working on a backup plan, Project Sovereign Shield. It included the creation of a national emergency food reserve, the launch of local trade agreements with neighboring countries, and the reactivation of unused gold mines to boost
There are
state
many
revenue.
things we
He
can
also
do, but I
began
think
printing
all of
a
this is
limited
the
edition
result
national
of
currency,
colonization.
not to replace the
Our
CFA
minds have been
franc,
somewhat
but to
blocked,
test
and we've been
internal
told to
trade systems.
consume.
Without
But
French
no, we
oversight,
need to
these
create, and you
experimental
need to believe in
transactions were
yourselves.
carried out in rural areas using digital platforms powered by solar
D'accord, merci beaucoup
and while
camarades
the IMF fueled,
et bonjour à tous.
something extraordinary began to
C'est
happen.
un réel
Burkina
plaisir
Faso didn't
d'être là ce matin avec vous pour communier avec vous et aussi échanger sur certains sujets, je dirais.
Maintained, not reduced, thanks to redirected mining revenue. The fuel subsidy system was restructured, not eliminated. Local farmers, protected from the new IMF proposed tax burdens, began producing surplus grains, especially under the Flour Revolution initiative. Bread prices dropped, school feeding programs expanded, and the people, they stood by Troy in rural markets and urban corners. His face became a symbol of defiance. Merchants named bread after him. Murals appeared with slogans like "No chains, no debt." Youth groups began hosting teach-ins on economic independence. University students organized forums called Post-IMF Africa. Troy didn't just spark resistance, he ignited a movement, but the pressure intensified. Western allies began suspending development aid. France issued statements warning of instability. Certain NGOs linked to international donors began pulling operations from Burkina Faso. The World
There are
Bank
many
delayed
things we can
funding
do,
for
but I
road
think all of
projects,
this is the
and
result
then
of
anonymous
colonization.
reports started
Our
circulating.
minds have been somewhat blocked,
Troy
and we've
was
been told to
consolidating power
consume.
unfairly,
But no,
that he
we need
was
to
violating
create, and you need to
democratic
believe in
principles. But
yourselves.
to many Africans watching, it was every time
D'accord, merci beaucoup camarades
global control,
et bonjour à tous.
accusations followed. Still,
C'est un réel
Troy
plaisir
he established
d'être là
the
ce matin avec
African
vous pour
South
communier avec
Regional
vous
Initiative
et aussi
Mali
échanger sur
and
certains
beginning to
sujets, je
pool
dirais.
gold, agricultural products, and strategic minerals into a shared economic security net. The fund allowed these countries to support one another during sanctions or financial retaliation. He also launched a digital platform for transparent budget tracking, allowing citizens to view how national funds were being spent in real time. It was a masterstroke cutting corruption, while silencing critics who claimed he was hiding mismanagement. In late 2024, he addressed the African Union and delivered a thunderous speech that echoed across the continent. We must stop negotiating with our hands out. If the money we borrow makes us poorer, then it is not help, it is a trap. The IMF does not develop nations, it disciplines them. And I say, no more. The room erupted, some clapped, others were silent, but the message had landed. That same month, a report from an independent think tank confirmed what many feared. The IMF's so-called assistance programs had actually decreased GDP per capita in several African nations over the long term, increased dependency, and worsened public services. Across Africa, leaders began watching Troy more carefully.
There are many
In
things we
Senegal,
can do, but I think
opposition
all of
parties
this is the
began
result of
campaigning on
colonization.
platforms of financial
Our minds have been
independence.
somewhat
In Ghana,
blocked, and we've been
debates
told to
erupted in
consume.
Parliament over
But no,
IMF
we need to
conditionality.
create, and you
Even
need to
in Kenya,
believe in
students
yourselves.
staged a march holding signs that united on Troy.
D'accord, merci beaucoup camarades et bonjour à tous. C'est un réel plaisir d'être là ce matin avec vous pour communier avec vous et aussi échanger sur certains sujets, je dirais.
Sovereignty programs. Security reports link these events to mercenaries, possibly sponsored by powerful interests. But Troy stayed the course. By 2025, Burkina Faso's economy was still fragile, but no longer collapsing. Its debt servicing had dropped by 35%. Inflation was being controlled. Gold exports were now routed through state channels, and public trust, according to internal polls, had reached an all-time high. He was proving a point that a nation didn't have to obey to survive. It could stand, fight, rebuild. The day Ibrahim Traoré declared war on IMF control in Africa wasn't just about Burkina Faso. It was about the continent's right to choose its own path, to trade on its own terms, to budget based on need, not pressure, to value people over spreadsheets. He challenged the very idea that Africa must always borrow, that we must always ask permission to grow. His declaration wasn't signed.
There are many things we can do, but I think all of this is the result of colonization.
May still hover like
our minds have been somewhat blocked, and we've been told to consume. But no, we need to create, and you need to believe in yourselves.
That the chains of debt are no less dangerous than the chains of slavery.
D'accord, merci beaucoup camarades et bonjour à tous. C'est un réel plaisir d'être là ce matin avec vous pour communier avec vous.